When my son told me over the phone that he wasn't expecting me for Christmas this year, I felt my heart shatter into a million pieces. But what I discovered about why he really didn't want me there made me do something that would change his life forever. And trust me, he never saw it coming. My name is Henry, and at 62 years old, I thought I had raised a son who valued family above everything else. I was wrong, and the price of that mistake would cost him everything he thought he owned. For 35 years, I had poured my heart, soul, and every dollar I earned into giving my son Michael the life I never had. Growing up in poverty, wearing hand-me-down clothes and eating government cheese, I swore that my child would never know that kind of struggle. I worked 3 jobs through his childhood, saved every penny, and built a successful consulting business that allowed me to give him everything he ever wanted. Michael graduated from Princeton debt-free because I paid every tuition bill. He drove a brand new BMW through college because I wanted him to feel confident among his wealthy classmates. When he got married to Sarah, I wrote a check for $50,000 to pay for their dream wedding at the country club. And when they wanted to buy their first house, a stunning colonial in the most prestigious neighborhood in town, I didn't hesitate to co-sign the mortgage and cover the down payment. The house was everything they had dreamed of. 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, a gourmet kitchen with marble countertops, and a backyard that looked like something from a magazine. Sarah would post pictures of their dinner parties on social media, showing off the dining room I had helped them afford, the furniture I had quietly purchased as housewarming gifts. Michael would text me photos of their renovations, always thanking me for making their dreams possible. Or so I thought. It was December 15th when I called Michael to discuss Christmas plans. For 35 years, Christmas had been sacred in our family. No matter what else was happening in our lives, we always spent Christmas together. It was the one tradition I had maintained since his mother passed away when he was 12, and it meant everything to me. "Hey, son," I said when he answered, my voice warm with anticipation. "I was thinking about Christmas dinner. Should I bring the spiral hem like usual, or did you want to try something different this year?" There was a long pause. Too long. "Dad," Michael's voice sounded strange, distant. "Actually, I need to talk to you about that." My heart began to beat faster. "What's wrong? Is Sarah okay? Are you okay?" "We're fine, it's just..." Another pause. "We're not really expecting you for Christmas this year." The words hit me like a physical blow. I actually had to sit down, my legs suddenly unable to support me. "What do you mean, you're not expecting me?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Sarah's parents are coming to stay with us for 2 weeks, and her whole extended family is going to be here. It's going to be really crowded, and honestly, it might be better if you made other plans this year." Other plans. As if I had anywhere else to go. As if anyone else in the world mattered to me the way he did. "Michael, it's Christmas," I said, trying to keep the hurt out of my voice. "We've spent every Christmas together since your mother died. I don't understand." "Look, Dad, I know it's different, but Sarah's family only visits once a year, and they're really important to her career. Her father has connections that could really help me at the firm." Career connections. That's what had replaced our 23-year Christmas tradition. "So where am I supposed to go?" I asked, hating how small my voice sounded. "I don't know, maybe you could volunteer somewhere? Or take a cruise? You're always saying you want to travel more." "A cruise. Alone. On Christmas." "I see," I said quietly. "And when did you and Sarah decide this?" "We've been talking about it for a while." "Look, Dad, I'll call you on Christmas Day, okay? We can FaceTime or something." FaceTime. Like I was some distant relative instead of the man who had sacrificed everything to give him the life he was now living. After I hung up, I sat in my empty house and cried for the first time since my wife's funeral. But as the tears dried, something else began to grow in their place. A cold, hard determination to find out what was really going on. Because something didn't add up. Sarah's parents lived just 2 hours away and visited frequently. Her extended family had never been particularly close. And Michael had always been excited about our Christmas traditions before this year. So I did what any successful businessman does when something doesn't make sense. I investigated. It started with social media. I created a fake Facebook account and began scrolling through Sarah's posts and her friends' accounts. What I found made my blood run cold. 3 weeks earlier, Sarah had posted about their intimate Christmas gathering with our closest friends. The photo showed their dining room table set for 8 people, with expensive wine glasses and holiday decorations I had never seen before. The caption read, "So excited for our child-free, drama-free Christmas with our chosen family." Child-free, drama-free. Chosen family. I kept scrolling and found more evidence. Photos from previous gatherings I had never been invited to. Comments from Sarah's friends about how nice it must be to have holidays without difficult family members. References to me as Michael's baggage and jokes about finally being free from family obligations. But the post that broke my heart completely was from Sarah's best friend. "Can't wait for Christmas at Mike and Sarah's." Finally, no more awkward dinners with his weird dad who acts like he owns the place just because he helped with the down payment. Helped with the down payment. I didn't help with the down payment. I made the entire down payment. I co-signed the mortgage. Without me, they would be living in a 1-bedroom apartment across town. I spent the next week digging deeper, and what I discovered was even worse than I had imagined. Michael and Sarah had been systematically excluding me from their social life for over 2 years. Every major event, every celebration, every gathering happened without me, and they had been lying about it constantly. The dinner parties I thought were small, intimate affairs were actually large social gatherings. The quiet weekends they claimed to prefer were filled with activities with their friends. The financial stress they sometimes mentioned was fabricated to avoid inviting me on vacations, while they posted photos from expensive trips I had never heard about. They had created an entire parallel life that didn't include me, funded by my money and made possible by my sacrifices, while treating me like an embarrassing obligation to be managed and avoided. But the final insult came when I discovered the group chat. Michael had left his laptop open during my last visit, and when I went to use it to look up restaurant reviews, I accidentally clicked on his messages. What I saw there changed everything. The group chat was called Sarah's Squad and included Sarah, her sister, her best friend, and shockingly, Michael. The messages going back months were filled with jokes about me, complaints about my neediness, and detailed strategies for limiting my involvement in their lives. "Henry is getting so clingy lately," Sarah had written. "He keeps asking about Christmas plans and I'm running out of excuses." Michael's response, "I know, it's getting annoying. Maybe we should just tell him we're traveling this year." Sarah's sister, "Or you could tell him you're sick. Food poisoning or something." Michael, "Good idea. He'll probably offer to come take care of us though, lol." Sarah's best friend, "Just tell him you're not doing Christmas this year. What's he going to do about it?" Sarah, "Perfect. He can't argue with that without looking pathetic." Michael, "Honestly, I'm so tired of pretending to be grateful for everything he's done. Like, he chose to help us. We didn't force him." That message sat in my chest like a knife. He was tired of pretending to be grateful for everything I had sacrificed for him. The messages continued, each one more hurtful than the last. They joked about my loneliness, mocked my attempts to stay involved in their lives, and treated my love for them like a burden they had to endure. But it was the final exchange that made my decision for me. Sarah, sometimes I wonder what our life would be like if he just wasn't around anymore. Michael, don't say that. Sarah, I'm not wishing anything bad on him, I just mean, like if he moved to Florida or something. Got his own life. Michael, that would actually be amazing. We could finally just be ourselves without having to manage his feelings all the time. Sarah, and we'd still have the house. Michael, obviously. Our name is on the mortgage too. Our name is on the mortgage too. As if they had contributed anything to acquiring that house beyond picking out paint colors. I took screenshots of everything, then closed the laptop and spent the rest of that day planning the most comprehensive revenge I had ever conceived. Because they had made one crucial mistake in all their scheming and plotting. They had forgotten who actually owned their perfect life. The next morning, I called my lawyer. Richard, I said when he answered, I need you to help me understand my options regarding the house I co-signed for Michael. What kind of options? Richard asked, immediately alert. He had been my lawyer for 15 years and knew I didn't make impulsive decisions. I want to know what happens if I stop making the payments. There was a long pause. Henry, you're listed as the primary on that mortgage. If you stop making payments, it affects your credit too. I understand that. But what happens to Michael and Sarah? Well, they'd be in default. They'd receive notices, and eventually, if the payments aren't brought current, the house would go into foreclosure. How long would that process take? In this state? Probably 4 to 6 months, depending on how quickly they could arrange alternative financing or find another cosigner. And if they can't? Then they'd lose the house. Perfect. My next call was to my accountant. Patricia, I said, I need to move some money around. I want to make sure all of my assets are properly protected and accounted for. Over the next 2 weeks, I systematically removed myself from every financial entanglement that benefited Michael and Sarah. I canceled the credit card I had given them for emergencies, which they had been using for their social gatherings. I removed Michael as a beneficiary on 2 of my investment accounts. I withdrew my offer to pay for their upcoming vacation to Europe, which I had promised as an early Christmas gift. But most importantly, I stopped making the mortgage payment on their house. The first notice arrived at their house on January 15th. Michael called me that evening, his voice tight with panic. Dad, we got a notice from the mortgage company saying the payment is late. Did something happen with your automatic payment? Oh, I said casually, I canceled that. I'm not making your mortgage payments anymore. The silence on the other end of the line stretched for nearly 30 seconds. What do you mean you're not making the payments anymore? His voice was higher now, stressed. I mean exactly what I said. I'm not paying your mortgage anymore. You're adults, and I think it's time you took full responsibility for your own lives. Dad, you can't just stop paying. We can't afford the full payment on our own, you know that. I know that you told me you weren't expecting me for Christmas because you were tired of managing my feelings, I said calmly. I know that you and Sarah have been excluding me from your lives while using my money to fund your lifestyle. I know that you joke about me with your friends and wish I would just disappear. Another long silence. Dad, I don't know what you're talking about. Michael, I saw the group chat. I saw all of it. I heard him suck in a sharp breath. I know you think I'm pathetic and needy. I know you're tired of pretending to be grateful for my help. I know that Sarah wishes I would just move to Florida and leave you both alone. So I'm giving you exactly what you want. Dad, those messages weren't. They weren't what? They weren't honest? Because they seemed pretty honest to me. Look, sometimes people say things when they're frustrated. That doesn't mean. It means everything, Michael. It means that you've been lying to me for years while taking my money and using my sacrifices to build a life that you don't want me to be part of. So now you can build that life without my help. I hung up and turned off my phone. The next month was a masterpiece of strategic psychological warfare. Every few days, Michael would try different approaches to get me to resume the payments. First, he tried guilt, reminding me of everything we had been through together since his mother died. Then he tried bargaining, offering to include me in more activities if I would just help them through this temporary financial crisis. When that didn't work, he tried anger, accusing me of being manipulative and vindictive. Sarah even called and cried on the phone, claiming that losing the house would ruin her career and her marriage. But my favorite was when they tried to involve other family members. My sister called me, concerned about the misunderstanding between Michael and me. "Henry," she said, "Michael is beside himself. He says you're going to let them lose their house over some silly argument." "It's not an argument, Linda. It's a consequence." "But he's your son. Family helps family. Family also respects family," I replied. "When Michael decides to treat me like family instead of like an ATM machine with annoying emotional needs, we can discuss resuming our relationship." By March, the foreclosure proceedings had begun in earnest. Michael and Sarah hired a lawyer, but there was nothing illegal about what I was doing. I had never signed a contract promising to make their payments indefinitely, and I had every right to withdraw my financial support. They tried to refinance, but without my income and credit score, they couldn't qualify for a loan large enough to cover the mortgage balance. Sarah's parents offered to help, but they didn't have enough money to make a significant difference. As the foreclosure date approached, Michael's calls became increasingly desperate. "Dad, please," he said during our last conversation. "I'm sorry about the things we said. I'm sorry we excluded you. Just please don't let us lose our home." "Your home?" I asked quietly. "Michael, I paid for that home. I paid the down payment, I've been making the mortgage payments, I bought most of the furniture. In what way is it your home?" "Because we live here. Because we built our life here." "You built your life there with my money while treating me like garbage. Did you really think there would never be consequences for that? I never meant for you to get hurt." "You absolutely meant for me to get hurt. You just didn't think I'd find out about it." The house went to auction in May. I attended the sale and watched as strangers walked through the home I had made possible, evaluating its worth and potential. Michael and Sarah weren't there. They couldn't bear to watch their dream home slip away. But here's the twist that made everything perfect: I bought the house. At the auction, I was the highest bidder. I paid cash, purchasing the home for significantly less than its market value because foreclosure auctions often go for below market prices. So now I own the house free and clear. Michael and Sarah had to move out by June 1st. They found a small rental apartment across town, the kind of place they would have been living all along if not for my help. I spent the summer renovating the house exactly the way I wanted it. I turned Michael's old room into a home office, converted Sarah's precious formal dining room into a library, and transformed their perfectly manicured backyard into a vegetable garden. Every change I made erased a little more of their presence from the home they had taken for granted. In September, I received an invitation to a housewarming party. My new neighbors, who had become good friends, were throwing me a party to celebrate my beautiful new home. The invitation was sent to my old address, forwarded to my new address, the same address where Michael and Sarah used to live. I learned later that the invitation was delivered to their apartment by mistake first, before being correctly forwarded to me. Michael called me that night, his voice broken. "Dad, are you living in our old house?" "I'm living in my house," I corrected. "The house I paid for." "You bought our house?" I bought my house back. He was crying now. Dad, I'm so sorry. We were wrong about everything. Please, can we talk? Can we work this out? We can work it out very easily, I said. You can start by acknowledging that you and Sarah spent years treating me terribly while I was sacrificing everything to give you a lifestyle you never earned or deserved. I acknowledge that, he said quickly. We were ungrateful and cruel. And you can acknowledge that you excluded me from your lives while using my money to fund those lives. Yes, I acknowledge that too. And you can acknowledge that you never actually loved or respected me, you just tolerated me because of what I could provide for you. There was a long pause. That's not true, he said finally. I do love you, Dad. I got confused about what was important. What's important, Michael? Family. Family is what's important. Good. Then you'll understand why I'm not interested in being part of a family that treats me the way you and Sarah treated me. I hung up and blocked his number. That was 2 years ago. I still live in the house I bought back from my son. I've made wonderful friends in the neighborhood, joined a book club, started volunteering at the animal shelter, and discovered that I'm actually quite happy living a life that doesn't revolve around managing someone else's ingratitude. Michael and Sarah divorced 8 months after losing the house. Apparently, the financial stress and blame over what happened destroyed their marriage. Sarah moved back in with her parents, and Michael rented a studio apartment downtown. I heard through my sister that he's been trying to rebuild his life, working longer hours and living more modestly. She says he asks about me sometimes, wondering if I'm happy and whether I might ever be willing to reconcile. But here's the final twist that makes this story perfect. Last month, I received a letter from an estate attorney. Apparently, my ex-daughter-in-law Sarah's grandmother had passed away and left Sarah her house and her will. But there was a problem with the inheritance. The grandmother had written in her will that Sarah could only inherit the house if she was married and settled in life with a stable family structure. Since Sarah was divorced and living with her parents, she didn't qualify for the inheritance. But the will had a backup provision. If Sarah couldn't inherit, the house would go to the most selfless family member who had been unfairly treated by the beneficiary. The estate attorney had done his research and discovered the entire story of how Sarah had treated me, how I had supported her and Michael, and how they had excluded me from their lives. Based on witness statements and documentation, including those screenshots of the group chat I had provided during the foreclosure proceedings, he determined that I qualified as the most selfless family member who had been unfairly treated. So now I own 2 houses. The one I bought back from my son, and the one I inherited from my former daughter-in-law's grandmother, who apparently had better judgment about character than her granddaughter did. I sold Sarah's grandmother's house and donated the proceeds to a charity that helps elderly people who have been abandoned by their families. My name is Henry, and I learned that sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone is the natural consequences of their own choices. My son wanted a drama-free life without his needy, pathetic father. I gave him exactly that. And I've never been happier. The ultimate irony, Henry not only bought back the house at foreclosure but also inherited his ex-daughter-in-law's grandmother's house due to a will provision about selfless family members unfairly treated. This unexpected windfall allows him to donate the proceeds while living peacefully in the home he reclaimed from his ungrateful son.